welcome back here once again, everyone. Ever since the MCU came out with their whole MCU universe, their interconnected universe, DC has been desperate to find a way to follow in their footsteps or basically create something of their own extended DCEU universe. Now, with the rise of Man of Steel, which then went on to Batman versus Superman, the CEU extended universe that they were trying to create was not looking all that good. It was too dark and gritty, and people were really kind of turned off by it as to what they were trying to do. Marvel, on the other hand, with their MCU, when they first began, was doing really good. They were putting out stuff that people really enjoyed, and it all kind of came down to their head, which was Kevin Feige. Now, ever since the merger between Warner and Discovery, David Zaslav has been looking for his own version of Kevin Feige to create a DCEU extended universe that would rival what the MCU was, because what they are now is a total mess. But what they were, that's what he really wanted to create. There have been some names that have been dropped here and there. A few people who were considered and didn't work out. Some who were considered again and still didn't work out. Recently, they wanted to put Walter Hamada to run it, but he left because most of what he was proposing and stuff didn't work. There have been cancellations of movies and things going on, especially the controversial Batgirl movie, which I consider cancelling to be a really good idea. What we have learned now is that the person who DC has confirmed to take over as their new Kevin Feige is James Gunn. And he's not going to be alone. Let's get into this article here. DC shocker. James Gunn, Peter Safran to lead film, TV and animation division. The duo will report to David Zaslav and assume the title of co-chairs and co-CEOs of the DC studios. So there's going to be a whole new thing, they're calling it DC Studios. Let's go on. The hierarchy of power in the DC universe really is changing. In a stunning turn of events, filmmaker James Gunn and producer Peter Safran have been tapped to lead DC's film, TV and animation efforts as co-chairs and co-CEOs of DC Studios, a newly formed division at Warner Brothers that will replace DC Films. The unprecedented move, in which a top director will assume a top executive post, marks the end of a months-long search by Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav to replace DC Films boss Walter Hamada, who departed the studio last week. That search had all of Hollywood guessing and playing executive bingo for who would land one of the most coveted and challenging jobs in town. Now, with James Gunn and Peter Safran being set to take over this, they have a seriously big task ahead of them. From what I understand, they are going to be taking up the leadership role from November 1st. So we will see how that goes on. I have some thoughts about what's going to happen and what I think to be done, but let's continue with this article a bit more before I go on. In recent weeks, Gunn and Safran were spotted on the Warner Brothers lot, meeting with Warner Film co-chair Michael DeLuca about future projects, and according to sources, the initial overture to Safran and Gunn came from DeLuca over the summer, even as the studio was in shaky talks with producer Dan Lin to take the job. Gunn will focus on the creative side of things, while Safran will focus on the business and production side. Both are expected to continue to direct and produce projects respectively. They will report directly to Zaslav and work closely with Warner Film bosses DeLuca and Pamela Abdi. Sources say the deal runs 4 years and Gunn will be exclusive to DC. The goal is for them not just to be producers, but to truly function as executives, even as Gunn will occasionally own a movie. So the deal is for 4 years. James Gunn and Safran are going to be exclusively for DC. Because as you know, James Gunn directed Guardians of the Galaxy, the first movie and the second movie, and then there was the whole controversy where they fired him for the third one, then brought him back after. And then he also directed Suicide Squad, the last Suicide Squad movie. So he has some credit when it comes to producing superhero movies. But let's continue on and see. Unlike Marvel Studios, DC has multiple films set in separate creative universes. And according to sources, they have the whole Joker movie going on and whatnot and the other, and also Matt Reeves, who worked on the Hamada, has a budding universe based on his The Batman movie. It is unclear under whose purview Reeves' future projects would fall, but everything else moving forward would be under Gunn and Safran's. DC has among the most entertaining, powerful, and iconic characters in the world, and I am thrilled to have the singular and contemporary talents of James and Peter joining our world-class team and overseeing the creative direction of the storied DC universe. That's what Zaslav said. Their decades of experience in filmmaking, close ties to the creative community, and proven track record thrilling superhero fans around the globe make them uniquely qualified to develop a long-term strategy across film, TV, and animation, and take this iconic franchise to the next level of creative storytelling. See some information on Gunn and Safran here. Gunn is one of the more respected minds in the world of comic book filmmaking. He came up in the indie film space and became an A-list director in 2014 with Marvel Studios' Guardians of the Galaxy and its 2017 sequel. He jumped to DC in 2018 to develop the Suicide Squad. After Arrival, Marvel fired him as director of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. The studio later reinstated him, and that project is due out in May 2023. His DC foray, The Suicide Squad, was critically adored and spawned the hit HBO Max spin-off Peacemaker, starring John Cena. Gunn is currently working on his second season. Safran came up as a manager where Gunn was among his clients and is fully enmeshed in the world of DC as producer of the $1 billion grossing Aquaman and its upcoming sequel, as well as Squad, Peacemaker, and Shazam and its sequel. His relationship with Warner's extends back 10 years and includes the $2 billion Conjuring horror franchise. The Safran company recently re-upped its production deal with Warner's. Now, let me just touch on a few things here with this. I've done videos before and I've stated that DC desperately wants to compete with Marvel and the MCU. Now, out the door, DC had a problem. Rather than they follow something that would have made them really good, because I've said before, I said again, if DC just follows what's in the comics, they wouldn't have a problem. But they decided to make a dark, gritty universe because they figured that's what people wanted. That didn't work out, and rather than admit it, they decided to try and pretend like, they could do something different. The DC Extended Universe didn't work well at all. The Justice League movie that the first one had, the Snyder Cut, I will say was the better one. That was the Justice League movie that I actually considered to be the real Justice League movie for that era. It doesn't mean I didn't have problems with it. Again, as I said, too dark and gritty, but it could be done. Now, one of the things that people tend not to talk too much about when it comes to the comparison between Marvel and DC, especially in the cinematic universe, is that when it comes to Marvel, they go all out when it comes to the visual and cinematic effects. They build these worlds that look absolutely stunning and eye-catching, and that's one of the things that really draws people in. I'm not saying that it's always perfect. They have some hits and misses here, but it's one of the things that really draws people in. In regards to that now, you don't get a lot of that when it comes to DC. And if DC works on that along with good storytelling, they won't have a problem. As for James Gunn now, it's kind of up in the air with me as to whether or not he would be really the right person to do this, because he kind of takes more of a controversial spin on characters rather than anything. Now, I rather like this Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and so I wouldn't say it was the best thing I've ever seen. I did like them. I think again what really stood out with them is that he made them silly and funny, but it worked along with the visual effects that actually complemented them. That was good. His last Suicide Squad movie that he did, I gave it kind of an average score. I did a review video for it, but I did a kind of an average score. It wasn't terrible, it wasn't great. Now, again, as I say, certain parts of it I didn't like. Certain things were okay, but not so much. But that's kind of the way James Gunn takes a kind of direction when it comes to these characters. And while that may work somehow with Guardians of the Galaxy when it comes to Marvel, right now he has the monumental task of building a new DC universe. Because the movie that they have that they're penning on totally rebooting the universe is the Flash movie. And at this point now, I have a video coming out about Ezra Miller and what's going to happen to him. But we have the controversy surrounding Ezra Miller. We have Amber Heard. She was in the first Aquaman movie. I wasn't a great fan of that movie. Again, Amber Heard didn't really make much sense to me. Her acting wasn't all that great anyway. But that's it. The Shazam movie was okay, but not in any way the best movie I have ever seen. I think DC needs to take a really hard look at what they need to do and make some serious changes. Whether or not James Gunn is the right person to do that, and whether him and Safran being co-chairs to get this done may have any kind of significant outcome on the DCEU is still to be seen, because these two have serious things in they have certain ups and they have certain downs. They do know what they're doing, but can that work for but whether that could work or not for DC at this point is to be seen, because they have a monumental task ahead of them to find a way to fix this entire DCEU mess. It's not going to be easy at all. DC is down, but again, as I say, because DC started later than the MCU doesn't mean that they can't do something better. They have a unique opportunity to learn from the mistakes that the MCU has made, because MCU Phase 4 was a total disaster. Total disaster. And if DC wants to do better, they have to go and create something that could actually be viable to what people want to see. And if they don't do that, they're going to be in trouble. So that's the breaking news right now. James Gunn and Peter Safran have been set to lead TV and animation divisions when it comes to DC. In regards to the animation portion though, let me just say, if they want to do this, I have been of the impression that I think they shouldn't go down the road of saying let the movies and the animation and the comics and everything be one universe. That does not work. It has not worked at all for the MCU. It should not be what they do at all, and especially if they're looking to go down the road of actually what it is DC is doing in their comics division. That entire comic line needs to be burnt at the stake. For the animation purposes though, if DC could stick to adapting from the comics and creating good animation quality, not the comics that is happening right now. I'm talking about the comics that came before, during, when people actually enjoyed it, and use that as well for their films and TV. Not a problem. But they got to know what they're doing, and that needs to be cornerstone of it, because if they want to follow Marvel, they're going to be in trouble, because no animation project that Marvel has put out for the MCU has been a hit. It's all been a miss and terrible at that. So that's the breaking news. Again, as I say, James Gunn and Peter Safran are currently in charge of Warner studios, so all of this, so well, DC studios. So we will see how that turns out and what it's going to be. I am cautious of it right now. I'm not going to say I'm ecstatic or anything like that. I am cautious, and I'm going to keep an eye on it and see what happens and let you know in updated videos as to how the tide begins to turn. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments. If you have a different opinion, I'd love to hear it. If you like the video, try to hit that thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, ring the notification bell, be notified every time I put out a new video. And I shall see you all next time. Take care.